PSV 3, Liverpool 2. It's ended the Champions League. The latest Champions League group game in the history of the competition is finally over. And it's ended with a loss. We couldn't keep the 100% record, but I think that's something that a lot of us were sort of expecting. Welcome back to LFC Transfer Room a little bit late. Obviously, the game ended a bit late, as did the first half, which I'm going to get into in a bit, because for all that I'm not annoyed, there's a few things that really did irk me during this match. I know there's a few things that Stitches is with me tonight, which we'll get into. We'll go through the match bit by bit. Nick says it best. The ref was a bellend. The ref was at points, and that is something that we're going to go through. Jamie says good experience for the academy lads. Chiesa was solid. Hope he's okay. Like to really press about it, really. And you know what? The Stitches. I suppose this is the sort of the moral and the takeaway from this tonight is look at the bright side. This was a match which we went into. It was a bit of a dead rubber. It was never going to be something that we were going to give 110% for, because there was absolutely really no need to. I mean, just your overall summary of the game before we go into the individual sections.
Yeah, I think the overall kind of report card is job done, on to the next round. Players rested, much needed rest given to some first team players, and preparations now afoot for Bournemouth. So, as I said, job done, on to the next one. However, if I had to break it down, the match was enjoyable in parts, frustrating in others, and definitely leaves me with a bitter taste in my mouth. I didn't like the way that PSV were popping the ball around and laying us towards the end. I didn't like. No one does that to my Liverpool. I didn't like the way the crowd were really getting into it, but that's what it's their stadium. That's what they can do. I didn't like the no-look passes that were going on the back heels, the flicks and tricks.
Oh, for them, that's a huge night. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But I'm a Liverpool fan, and I never ever want to watch that happen to my team. Right? But as I said, I take the positives out of it. You know, our team got the rest. We're on to the next one. Some players got minutes. It was nice to see Chiesa get through a game. Dan's got, an opportunity fortuitously, because Nunes got injured. I think some would maybe even have made that selection.
He's ill. So apparently, according to reports, he's ill at the moment. He's caught some sort of illness in the travel, and that's why he didn't play.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the reasons, and these things happen in football. And this is where opportunities are made, and the rest could have been history. I thought he worked his socks off. I thought he showed quality in parts, but you could see that he's not quite ready yet. He got bullied quite a bit, even though he never shirked the battle. You could see that, those defenders just had a little bit too much for him in parts, but it was good to see him out there. McConnell came on, and I thought he showed some flashes. Brilliant tackle, to stop the breakaway, which was fantastic. So look, you've got to take these things. That's more minutes for these kids. That's more experience. It's all going to stand us in good stead down the line. And what I've got to say is, even when we had a sprinkling of one or two potential squad players from the first team, we looked like we could easily beat this team, right? So imagine if we were ever to face them with the full strength of the squad, it would be a problem. But, it is what it is. And fortune favours the brave and the bold, in that Barcelona drew their game,
exactly
which left
what I
us
was about to say. Yeah.
So, listen, I can't be too disappointed. I just don't like to see my team get done like that. That's all.
Look, I know, I completely agree, mate. And I'm not a sort of, if this was a case of we were losing in the Premier League, we were losing to a side that was sort of, we were competing for top honours, and they started doing that, it would hurt a bit more. Say if the Newcastle draw, if they started doing that last minute, say the United draw, it was that kind of thing. I'm the way I'm looking at it is a bit glass half full. I'm just thinking, for them, the first time they've ever beaten us in 7 matches, I believe the stat was, or 8 matches, they're through in the Champions League. that was a big performance for them, because for them, in their eyes, not only have they just beaten arguably the best team in the world at the moment in all competitions, they've just beaten Arne Slot, who must have been a terror for them when he was over there. That was a huge game. And like you rightfully said, fortune favours the bold, because even though we lost, we still topped the Champions League, which is absolutely mental. We've rested players. We got to see some great, I was going to say great debuts, but we didn't get to see a great debut. We'll go on to that shortly, but we got to see some young players coming through. James McConnell, like a lot of people have really touched on, I felt was absolutely phenomenal. Like, he was all over the pitch. He was our best player by a fair distance, I'm actually going to say. And this was a game which, like I said, we weren't going in expecting anything major. We weren't going in expecting a result. A win would have been fantastic, but it is what it is. And I'd rather us have gone down swinging in the manner we did, with these young players getting chances, with us still scoring goals, than go there in a sort of, do you remember we played Aston Villa in the League Cup in 2019 and it was just the kids and we got thumped like 4-0? I'd rather it be this than that. And we got to see some of our first teams get football, young lads coming in. I mean, West, we'll go through the moments to start with. And I suppose the first real talking point is we score first. Liverpool get the first goal against this PSV side, who for the first 20, 25 minutes, they didn't. I think they sort of went into this expecting to be playing the sort of the Liverpool team that have been around in recent months. It's like they needed to get that first attack under their wings to sort of realise, okay, this is a weaker Liverpool team, so to speak. Let's get at them. But they were poor for the first 25 minutes, and that penalty decision, I mean, penalty for you, the tackle on Chiesa, or do you think that you could look at that and maybe think that's a bit unfortunate for PSV, that one?
No, that's opinion. I hope he does okay. It's 12 o'clock this side, but then, that's a stone goal penalty. Like, he kicked him from behind. Chiesa was in front of the ball. He never touched the ball. So for me, I take it as a pin. But when going through the game, for me, like, it was a game where I was watching the Barca game. I was watching Liverpool and Barca. So, like, for me, I didn't care much. I just wanted to see the kids play out. And as people talk about James, like, he usually played out. He was actually my favorite player to watch today. Like, good cameo. There's nothing much I can speak on the game, because we're two already. So, and you rested players, because I was saying to myself, if Van Dijk, Salah, and them players came to PSV, they want to lose. They're going to be 4-0 down in the first half. So, for me personally, it was just a normal game.
Yeah, and look, this, like we said then, a lot of first teamers got rest, and there were players, Canate, who Slot himself has said is playing through injury, McAllister, who I think he gets a lot more battered than people think he does in matches. He gets thrown around, he could do with the break. There's a lot of people saying that Robertson is centre-back and they knew they were in trouble, and I suppose we can sort of tangent into that slightly for a minute, Stitches, because I don't know about you. When I saw the team that was going, I was convinced it was going to be Endo at centre-back with Morton starting in the middle of the pitch, not this Robertson centre-back thing, and using both of our left-backs, or only two fit left-backs, in the starting lineup. But I wasn't concerned about Robertson at centre-back. I actually thought, in a sense, maybe it'll be better for him not having to play against Bakayoko out wide, maybe in a position where he doesn't have to be the quickest player. Like, what did you make of the starting lineup when you saw it?
Do you know what? I was ready for some surprises, but I can't lie. Seeing Robbo at centre back threw me completely. Even though there was a ITK on Twitter, who I won't name, but whose information is usually pretty rubbish, that posted in 9 hours before the match that he would be playing centre back, and I just thought complete nonsense. But so it turned out. And to be fair to him, I think in the main he didn't do terribly, but there were moments where you saw some of the concerns that we have around Robbo happening in the middle of the defense, and
positionally in particular.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when the ball's transitioning in the air. He just seems to get his sat nav, he's obviously not using Waze, but his sat nav just doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? In terms of where he is. So that was a concern. But again, against better quality opposition, I think we would have been in serious trouble. I actually have to, I think I've seen a lot of people question Kwanzaa, but I actually thought Kwanzaa did quite well.
I
thought he
thought
did
Kwanzaa
quite
was
well,
great.
considering he was playing that position with people who don't traditionally play centre back, and people he wouldn't traditionally line up next to. And by all accounts, the striker, I can't remember his name, Pepe, is it Pepe? For PSV. He's on great form right now. This is a team that's top of the league in Holland. And I thought I handled the challenge pretty well, to be honest. So I didn't understand the criticism. But I think sometimes us as Liverpool fans, we have our agendas. We have our agendas in regards to who we like and who we don't. And we're going to make arguments for and against. I'm just as guilty of that as anyone else. For example, tonight, everything that Dan's did was considered amazing and fantastic and great. But the reality is, it was meh. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing. If Darwin put in that kind of performance, he'd get absolutely annihilated.
Yeah.
And I caveat that by saying Dan's is 18. He's finding his way in the game. So I don't want to make this about Dan's in a negative sort of way, but just to highlight the point that I'm trying to make about the agendas that we all have. This performance is going to go down in folklore for Dan's about how amazing he was, but it wasn't really that great, if we're being completely honest. And I didn't expect it to. He's 18 years old. He's finding his way in the game. But yeah, look, it was a makeshift team. And I actually thought in the first half, we actually bossed the game, which I didn't expect. I thought, considering there were so many changes, we looked like if we really had to step up the pressure, we could have scored goals. We could have scored more goals, But, I think Slot did the prudent thing in terms of only playing some of those players for half a match and then resting them. And I think that was the right thing. So selection-wise, I can't really fault him. It was experimental. Anything goes. Just get 11 bodies out there, get through the 90 minutes, and then pack your bags and let's get back to the UK.
Oh, my only shock in it is I thought, well, Endo played centre back against Southampton, and he played centre back against Accrington. When I literally went to that match, and I can't remember. I'm sure he did, but to start both left backs in this game when it's the dead rubber of a game, essentially, to me, I understand he took Robertson off, but it just seemed a bit strange when you've got Tyler Morton there, who's not had any game time really and could do with a start. You've got Endo, who hasn't had a lot of game time and has played centre back. It was a little bit odd for me to see both left backs start, and it showed positionally. Robertson, there was a lot of moments where it just felt like he was wanting to commit forward. He would, and there was a lot of space. And there's if I can find that Bakayoko goal hurt where he sat them both down. And that was a proper, no one was comfortable kind of thing. You could see that everyone was just trying to commit themselves too much. And it was a back line where no one really shined. I thought Kwanzaa was good in the air. I thought he was solid. And there's a lot of people saying, Dan's poor performance. It was a poor performance, but we got to understand that this isn't Jayden Danns playing against Accrington. This isn't Jayden Danns playing against a Southampton team who were on 6 points in the Premier League. This is a PSV Eindhoven team who were top of the Eredivisie, who were a lot more of a physical presence. And this is a learning curve and a learning experience for him, as it is for a lot of these people, especially Nalo, who we'll get that out of the way really quick. I'll go to you first, West, with this, because before we come on to all the events like the goals and the features and everything, that Nalo sending off, it's his first game, it's his debut. It's disappointing, but I suppose it's something he's going to learn from. I mean, what were your immediate thoughts on the young lad who's just come on and then immediately sent off about 3.5 minutes later, I believe it was?
To be honest, I don't understand that guy, but then I knew that it was I'll never see him again, to be honest. Even in the cup games, I won't see him again. So him playing, getting sent off, it was like, okay, cool. If your suspense finish, I would see you again playing. You see, it was like this game was a rotated game, so I couldn't care less if it was sent off or not. Like, I feel bad for him, but then you live, you learn, innit?
You live and you learn, kind of thing. And it's just, it was one of those sort of situations where he's been caught, he's been left for dead, he's on his own, he's got to do something. If he lets him get past, it's probably going to lead to a goal, and it is what it is. He'll learn. And I suppose the benefit is it's not a first teamer, but we'll go through the bit. So the first one penalty we discussed, Gakpo brilliantly slots that away perfectly. But then the impetus is on PSV Eindhoven to come and equalise or to push further forward, which they did. Bear with me a moment because I'm just trying to get the goals. It is Johan Bakayoko's is the goal where he essentially just sits everyone in their arse. And Bakayoko Stitches is someone who he's been linked to Liverpool for a long time, for months. And I was an advocate of him. Looking at him today, I felt like he was a very good player at points, but there was a lot of Steve McManaman on commentary was losing his rag over him, constantly going onto his left, constantly doing too much. And the showboating doesn't do him any favours in my book in terms of what Liverpool fans will think, kind of thing. But that goal, that was the definition of composure.
Yeah, it was absolute quality, the finish. I thought he took advantage of a situation in terms of, we've covered it in terms of the squad. Let's see you do that against, a full Liverpool lineup, and then you might impress me. But if I had to look at his qualities, I'd say he looks like he's quite a flary type of player. He's got, nice feet. He's quite quick.
Looks like Jeremy Doku kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But I think the word I would use is raw. I think he would need some refinement. He'd need some work for him to be able to operate at the levels that we would expect him. I wouldn't expect him to come into our squad and be an immediate starter. I think he would be someone that would need to be developed somewhat into the type of player that we're looking for. But he does have a lot of raw materials that could turn him into a class player. But yeah, that's all I can give him really. I thought he was their best player, I think, by a country mile, in my opinion. He was their biggest threat. And that showed. I mean, the finish, as you said, he sat two of our defenders down, absolutely sold them down the river, and then the composure to tuck it away into the corner, give Kelleher absolutely zero chance. Yeah, you have to give him credit for that. But look, I felt overall it was a given evening, if you know what I mean. We gave PSV a result.
Yeah.
We gave them a performance. We were in giving mood. Slot gave Gakpo a testimonial back at his old club. Gakpo got on the score sheet. We gave them some goals. It was all round giving, and that's what it was. And I couldn't really tell you too much about the quality of that PSV team because of that. But yes, if I had to look at it from a holistic point of view and just think, look, who looked like they had a little bit something, then it would be Bakayoko, definitely.
Yeah. Well, like Jamie says, still would not mind Bakayoko in Liverpool one day. And maybe one day he will sort of develop into this more, I think raw is the perfect word, what you've said there. He does feel like a young energy just sort of there. Like he's good on the ball. He reminds me of like an Alan Saint-Maximin type player or like a Jeremy Doku or just one of those players who he's so good on the ball. He's so good at dribbling. He just feels a bit like the pieces are there. They're just not all together yet. And I suppose West, like, as much as we give Bakayoko credit for that goal, because it was well taken, it was calm, Pepe needs deserves some praise for his effort in that goal to chest it down. He literally drags every defender in that back line across to sort of literally pulls everyone out of position because of how strong he is and how well he does on the ball. What did you make of this PSV team? I understand they were playing our B team and they conceded 2 goals, but did you look at them and think, there's something here, this is a good side, or did you think that we could have maybe done better even with our sort of backup players playing, so to speak?
For me, when it comes to PSV, I get they are top of the league, but then I saw that I looked at us more than them because I felt like we had better players than them. Of course, the better attack than them. Let me say that. But I thought maybe the game changed when Cody Gakpo came out. For me personally, that was how I saw it. But then for PSV, I look at them like the attack is all raw because I think the front line is still young, 22, 23. I'm really not sure. And
2.
but or 2, okay. And
Yeah.
but Yoko, I'm really not a fan of him because I see him as a Doku. It's like you can be good on the ball and then they lack end products. Just like the maximum. They were great on the ball, dribbling skills, but then they lack the end product. And for him to come to Liverpool and then go perform because like it's like us going from a Salah to a Badioko. Like the drop off is big because Salah is a good dribbler and he has end product. Badioko doesn't have end product. I saw him doing olays, doing flicks. I'm like, yeah, like Badioko is the type of player who can get locked up easily. If like Badioko played on Bradley's side, I'm sure Bradley wouldn't lock him up to be honest. So Badioko to Liverpool, it's great, but then I'm really not a fan of it to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there was talent, but this performance wasn't one where I looked at him and thought, you need to come to us. I'm not disputing he's a great player. And if you go back a few months, I was saying myself, I've said it on a couple of platforms that I think he'd be absolutely brilliant. Mercedes says, absolutely not. They were genuinely think a draw was a fair result. That scoreline for helpful ref and child opponents, shocking. If we played Nunez and Gomez, both second choices, we smash them. I think not playing Gomez was probably the right thing to do, in all honesty. He's just come back, and this wasn't as dead a rubber for PSV as it was for us. They still had someone to play for, so obviously they were going to go for it. And obviously Nunez, ill or whatever's going on with him, he made the trip, but he was too ill to play or something. So I don't know what's gone on there. And then it comes back to us, Chiesa, who I suppose we'll touch on him for a minute because he was the one who got things going, Stitches. And Chiesa is... he's great. I think he's really, really good. And this was his best game for us by far. I think he was really great going forward. His pressing was almost like Darwin Nunez. Like, he was so good off the ball. He had bundles of energy. He kept going for the full 90, which was a bonus. But there was 1 or 2 moments, especially in that second half, when he's trying to cut in on the left, cut inside, and it just feels like he was doing a bit too much. But before we get on to that, he does have a lot of build-up in the first goal. In the second goal, Gakpo brings it down, passes it off to Nunez, who... what a volley it was. And to be honest, I really, really wish it had gone in for him. But then Harvey Elliott's there to back it up. What do you make of Chiesa's performance tonight as a whole and his contribution to that goal? You're muted, by the way. There you go.
My favorite trick. Have to do that at least once on every pod. What do I think of Chiesa's performance? I think he was encouraging. I think that's the word that I would use. I think if anything, he probably did himself a lot of good in terms of what he showed the manager in terms of his work rate, because we know that's massive for Slot. I've questioned sometimes. I don't think he's quite there yet with the pressing, even though I do give him a lot of credit for the work that he did today. I feel like there was still moments where he could have gone on and pressed again, but he just kind of started walking after he'd done the initial press and then maybe pressed again and then kind of and then sleep. And I think that's what he needs to get out of his game. He has to have that absolute press till you're dead or till the ball's
either
transition.
Go or don't.
Or
not
don't
in between.
Go. Not in between. And I think he'll learn that. I think, he'll learn that. And that's me being uber critical. I think he showed flashes of the quality that we expect from a Chiesa in terms of his footwork and his directness and the threat that he carried. I think one of the things that makes our team so special in terms of what we achieve is the togetherness of the team, the sharing, And I know that in the past, Salah's been accused of being very greedy. And maybe he has, and maybe he's matured over time. Maybe he's had moments where he has been, but Salah
Yeah.
creates a lot for everyone else as well as scores
He's
goals.
earned the right.
And I think he's earned the right. And I feel like Chiesa needs to add that to his game a little bit, because there were moments tonight where he's opted to cut in and shoot, where perhaps one more pass would have perhaps unlocked even more of a clearer cut opportunity. I think there was one in particular where he could have squared it to Elliott, but he decided to take the shot on himself in the second half. And I felt,
Yeah.
if he'd just picked that pass, it would have been a much better option to take. So look, well, again, as I said, I'm being uber critical. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what does it take for him to break into that first team and really cement down a place? And those are the things I think he's going to need to improve. But that being said, the more minutes he gets, the more he's around and involved in the first team, I think the more likely it is that you're going to see him reach those levels. And I'm very okay with the process that we've taken with Chiesa. I think if we'd have thrown him in the deep end much earlier, then the negative press, the negative opinions from the fans would have come. It might have been added pressure on him. But the way we've done it is really, I think, the best way, because now we're seeing those flashes. We're seeing a lot of positive things. It's going to, give him more confidence as he starts to, have a little bit more influence in the team and get more minutes. And I really think he has a critical part to play in the final third of the season. And I think we're going to see, him have an impact as he gets brought into the squad and, gives us a little bit more strength. So, yeah, just to recap, very encouraging performance.
No, I think he was good. And like I said, it is very encouraging. Full 90 minutes for him. Throughout this whole 90 minutes, he attempted 7 dribbles, successfully completed 3 of them. He won 11 of his 18 ground duels, which is really good for someone of his stature. He was fouled 4 times. He made 4 tackles, and he obviously won us the penalty, which gave us our first goal. He also had 2 shots on target. So overall, it's a good performance. My argument of him was just, there were moments where it just felt, like you said before, he had better options, he had the pass, and it just felt like he was trying to prove himself. It felt like he was trying to be the one to get that moment. And he's had game after game where he's come so close to scoring. And look, I'd rather be in a situation where Chiesa's coming off my bench than Usama Assaidi or something like that. Like, there are worse people we've had in the past who could come off the bench. Federico Chiesa is really, really talented, and I'm hoping that this is a bit of a kickstarter for him to get more 90 minutes, more game time. Just before we go on to West, Jamie says, are you implying it's not an illness? No, what my point was with Nunez was, I just think it's very strange that he was well enough to go to travel, and then he suddenly got very sick to the point where he can't be in the squad. I just think that's very strange. Maybe it's like food poisoning, maybe it's something. I don't know. But I just think it's very odd how quick that's happened when he's been well enough to make the trip over there 24 hours ago, and then he's in this situation. So, yeah, not some sort of conspiracy theorist. We don't wear tin hats around here, let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's great for Chiesa and West. I mean, Chiesa was probably the bright light, but one player who isn't getting the credit I think he deserves when he came on the pitch is Tyler Morton, who, looking at him, he got the highest rated, the overall rating of any Liverpool player in this game, according to SofaScore. He only played 38 minutes. He had an 88% pass rate. His one dribble attempt was successful. He won 2 of his 4 ground duels, 2 block shots, 1 tackle, 1 clearance off the line. I mean, Tyler Morton looked absolutely fantastic, West. And there were rumours of him leaving in January, still potentially could. Is he a player who needs more game time in this Liverpool system, do you think?
You mean away or in Liverpool?
What was that? So you sort of broke out a bit there.
Do you mean away or in Liverpool?
We'll do both. Do you think he's someone who can get into this Liverpool side, or do you think he is someone who needs to go away on loan to get game time while we're in this sort of position in the league and Champions League?
for me, it's 50-50 because, like, wasn't he on loan last season? So I don't like loaning players too often and then we end up losing them. I'm really not a fan of that because I think we lost some brilliant players before. Then now loaning him again, then like, and then again and again. I think he needs to start getting his game up, playing the Carabao Cup games, FA Cup games, even like the FA Cup game coming up. I think he should play that. I was surprised when he was at the bench today and I saw Endo. I wanted him to start and Endo in centre back, as like you both said. So when it comes to him, like I want him to stay, to be honest, because like I wanted to get more games, like get adjusted, just like him, Dans, McCollum, they're good players. McCollum I might loan out, but then Morty, he has been in loan. So I feel like he needs to be trusted enough to start playing more enough. He needs to start catching up the pace.
I mean, alone, I'm in the same. I don't want to see Morton loaned out, to be honest. I think he's definitely. We're needing depth in that number 6 role, and it's obvious that we're not bringing anyone in this window. You need people who can fit the system, and Tyler Morton so far hasn't given me a bad game in the very minimal data that he's presented to us this season, because obviously there's only so many games that he's played. But every game he's been in, he's almost stole the show in a sense, and I think he could easily fit into what Slot wants as your number 6 in that sort of Gravenberch role. He's more than capable, and I mean, Stitch is like. We'll keep it on Tyler Morton for the minute because I don't think he's a player who gets a lot of credit, gets the recognition I think he deserves, especially with it's looking like Badge Titch is headed to Spain on a new loan. We need to keep as much depth as possible because without the likes of him and McConnell or Neone, we're playing first teamers or second teamers today. Would a loan out for Morton at this stage of the season make sense, or is he someone who you'd be looking at keeping just for the remainder?
I would keep him. I would keep him definitely. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah.
I think the kid's got lots of quality. I just struggle to think where he's going to get a lot of minutes, and I think it's important for his development that he has minutes. So that's my only concern in terms of him staying. I'm with Wes. I'm not a massive fan of us loaning our players out too often.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I look at it this way. Going out on loan to another club that might not play our system, how beneficial is that versus training week in, week out with the quality of players that we have, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, it's, again, as I said, it's the system and then playing with the players and being in view of the manager. So even if you're getting like 15 minutes at the end of a match, or you're getting cup games against Plymouth or Accrington Stanley at Liverpool, I think that's far more valuable than some of the loans that our players are going. I mean, I look at Bacetic. This kid was the linchpin of our midfield at one point when we had loads of injuries. We sent him out on loan. How many games has he played? Like, what is the real value in the loan that he's had? I've heard that he's going to go on to another loan now. So when I look at Morton, I don't want him to go down that route. In my mind, if you start getting loaned and then loaned and then loaned, you're not really going to have a future at the club because other players are coming in and cementing their positions, and the chances of you coming in and holding down a spot just become less and less and less. Although the counter argument is that you're supposedly going to get more minutes by going out on loan. You're only really going to be able to impress the coach during pre-season. So we're far from that. So for me, you might as well keep him. You know what I mean? You might as well keep him. That's what I think.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't see any reason to get rid of Morton because what then who is your backup? Your backup's Endo, who, no disrespect to Endo, I think Endo's a good player, but he doesn't fit Slot system clearly. Tyler Morton is a much more versatile number 6 in that kind of role. And like JMU says, it worked for Doak, it worked for Harvey Elliott when he went out on loan. Until we sold him, Fabio Carvalho went out on loan to Hull and he was fantastic. There are examples in our past of people getting loaned out and coming back and doing really, really well. But at the same time, there's those players like Yeshea Ojo, who was loaned out to many different clubs. Your Marco Grujic, who was loaned out to many different clubs. Nat Phillips is still on our books, and it's obvious that he's not going to get in the team. but we just continuously loan him out. And I don't want Tyler Morton to fall into that same bracket. I don't want him to become that player who is consistently loaned out because he's not good enough to be in the first team, according to some, but he's not so bad that you want to get rid of him. So just procrastinate for a year and then just see what happens next summer. It doesn't work that way. And the same makes a good point. Tyler Morton and Gravenberch are the same age. And I didn't know that. That's mental. But like, he needs the game time. And we're in 4 competitions. He's probably not going to feature now in the Champions League when we go forward because every game is a knockout. He's probably not going to feature in the Prem unless bar and touch wood, injuries, stuff like that. He is probably going to be a cup player, but we're still in the FA Cup. We're still in the Carabao Cup. We might need to rotate a bit there every now and then. So I've got no part of me wants to see Tyler Morton go on loan. I think he's a very talented player who can fit the system. Derek Sutton says 100% keep him in the squad. And then Jamie says you should be able to develop one backup mid from those 3 young players still, I would think. And James McConnell isn't the last player we're going to sort of do a real focus on because he was man of the match for me. I think Chiesa is a strong argument, but I think McConnell, every game he's been in, including the Cup last season, the Carabao Cup, he's looked top tier. Like he looks really, really good. He doesn't look out of place. So good defensively, so good going forward. And I mean, West, I'll go to you first with McConnell. Give your your summary of his performance today and what you think the near future holds for James McConnell in this Liverpool squad.
James McConnell, I watched him last season in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup game, and he looked a bit decent. Like he gives me a bit of like simple midfielder, pass 1-2, take players on. Like he's too simple, and I like him as a midfielder, and he has a bit of take in him. So yeah, like for me personally, like today's game, like actually impressed me. I was actually impressed by him, like making tackles, passing around, moving the ball quicker. Like I think Slot fancies him more than Morty, to be honest, because like the way he played, he actually impressed all of us. So for me, I think he can go on loan, but then like only if he doesn't go on loan, I'm okay with that. But then like I actually like the play. He's actually a good player, good 8 and a good 10. I see him in the more 8 position than the 10, to be honest.
No, I agree. I think he is one of those people who he enjoys picking the ball up from deep and moving it forward. And I'm actually just looking at the heat maps for the starting lineup now. If it wants to actually load, that'd be fantastic. I'll just share my screen really, really quick, just so I can give a sort of a vague idea of where McConnell was situated throughout this match. Like, it's fast to do this. But yeah, so McConnell's obviously number 53. He's the highest of the midfield 3. That's including all the subs. So I'm going to show the substitutions. Take them out. So yeah, so he was actually the highest up of the 3 of Harvey Elliott, Endo, of course, and James McConnell's there. And then when you bring the substitutions on, so when you bring on Trainioli and Tyler Morton, he's level up top with Tyler Morton. And he's, I'm of the belief that I think that McConnell can fit into this system as your backup number 8 type player, that box-to-box kind of midfielder, your Curtis Jones kind of role. I'm just curious, Stitches, with the way, we do have a lack of depth, I think, in the number 10 role, because we don't necessarily play a number 10, so to speak. Szoboszlai's probably the only one. Jones is a bit deeper. Elliott's sort of in there, but he's, we don't know what's going on at the minute. Where do you think is the best position in this midfield for James McConnell at the moment, if he is trying to break into this squad? Like, where's he best aiming for to get in?
So the biggest credit I can give McConnell is that he doesn't play like he's a youth player coming in. He plays beyond his years. Yeah. I think that's how I can describe him, first and foremost. I love his versatility. I think he can play 8. I think he might even be able to play 6. I think I've seen him play right back for us. in some
Probably.
games where I
He
think
did in the Carabao Cup final, I think, for a minute.
He stepped into right back. I think he has a physical presence that's kind of unusual for players of that age coming through. I think he's got quite a little bit of a tiger in him, a bit of a bite in him, winning the ball back. I think he reads the game well. I think, and just to answer your question before I go around the houses, I think his superpower is going to be the fact that he can play all the roles in that midfield. And I think that's probably going to get him more minutes than maybe the likes of Morton. Because I think with his physical capabilities, his presence, the way he plays, his maturity of his game, I think that Slot is more likely to trust him in an 8 if he wants to, in the box-to-box 10 role that we like to play Szoboszlai in, or in the 6 if he absolutely has to fill in if we're going to play a double pivot. So I've kind of not answered your question, but answered your question in the fact that I think he'll be able to play any of those roles. I think he'll be able to play any of those roles, and I think it really depends what our need is. If we have an abundance of injuries in a position, or there's a requirement because the player's in the red zone and we need to rest them, I think you're going to see James McConnell be able to pick up the slack, the minutes that we need covered. So yeah, for me, I think, in fact, out of the two, Morton and McConnell, and I like them both, I think sending them out on loan is no for me. I think he's likely to get the more minutes out of the two, just because I think every time that he's gone in and he's played different roles, he's done it to a very high standard.
I'm just checking because I don't know when the draw is for the Champions League. Is it being done right now? Can someone let me know? Because there's people commenting saying, is it Friday? Okay. So, because I saw City versus Real Madrid, and I was like, it's not now, is it? And I'm being an absolute knob. But so based on what we've been told, so in our next round, we play either PSG, Benfica, Monaco, or Brest. They're the 4 teams that we can essentially get, and City will play can play Real Madrid or Bayern the midweek before we go to the Etihad, and we've got a free week off for that. So that's perfect, absolutely perfect. And happy days, like that has worked out perfectly. Well done, City, for getting through. You beat Club Bruges. Not everyone can do that. Jamie says we're getting PSG. Of those clubs, it probably would be Sod's Law. But you know what? At the minute, bring on anyone. We've beat the champions of Europe and Spain, beat the champions of Germany, beat the champions of Italy, beat the champions of England. If we want to play the champions of the Farmers League, bring it on. Doesn't bother me. Let's have anyone. We're getting PSG after the Europa League. Slot said he was impressed by James McConnell, that he's now unlikely to go out on loan. Brilliant. I've got no issue with that because I think McConnell is in terms of depth, and I know this is going to trigger all the FSG out people and all the, but we've got, this just shows weakness. I would rather someone like James McConnell get his chance to prove himself in this squad than go out and spending money on someone who we don't know whether they're going to be good or not. James McConnell has proven himself. I've got no issue sticking with him and keeping depth and promoting our young lads into the team, because that's what the youth system's there for. Just a bit of a little rant there. I suppose then we'll cap off this, and we'll go to you, West, and then we'll go to you, Stitches. Final thoughts regarding this game, West? Like, are you too arsed that we really lost this game 3-2?
No, I was betting, so I lost my money. So yeah, but like, to be honest, I couldn't be asked about this game. Like, it was just a game. It was just a relaxing day for me. A relaxed Wednesday. Looking forward to watch the lads. That's it. Nothing much. If we win or lose, I know. I'm more since Liverpool qualified, I more care about the Premier League games more than Champions League, because now we're qualified. So if it was bonus, I'd be more open. But in this game, I couldn't be asked. I'm just chatting to the lads too about the football match, so I can't be bothered about it.
No, and I mean, Stitches, bigger fish to fry, so to speak. No disrespect to PSV. Bournemouth next. Bournemouth away.
Yeah.
So,
job done. on to the next one. The real match is this weekend. I just think so much on the line. We get a victory against the informed team in the league, Bournemouth, and hopefully City do some damage to Arsenal, and there'll be tears in North London. Do you know what I mean? It just cements it just a little bit more, and it's one less game. I think I've got like a countdown going on personally where I'm like, I think we're 9 victories away from cementing the league. And
10.
you know,
Bang on
you say
10.
10. I say 9
10.
because I think they're going to drop points, which will make it 9.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. So I think we get those 9 victories, and then it's all good. So if we win this weekend and then win against Everton, that's down to 7. Do you know what I mean? So look, I think taking the opportunity to rest our team, our players, is just great management. Great management. They needed it, and we've got it. Job done in the Champions League. We can forget about that now for a little while, and just focus on building that momentum again in the league and just going again. So for me, it's job done. As I said, I don't like to see teams olaying against my team, but I'll live with it. I'll live with it, because football has that. It has that thing where it gives you opportunities to right wrongs, and I hope it does against them at some point. But for now, put that to the back of the mind, dust things down, and preparation for Bournemouth, because that's not going to be an easy game.
No, it's going to be solid. I said it before. I was on the radio and they said to me, are you nervous for Bournemouth? Are you worried? I'm more nervous for Bournemouth than I was City. I genuinely, they've just beat Nottingham Forest 5-0, who we struggled with twice. It's not going to be an easy game. And this match it's disappointing. It's our 3rd loss of the season, but it is what it is. It was a dead rubber. We got to see a couple of first teamers get some game time who needed it desperately, or second teamers, if you were like Harvey Elliott, your Endos, etc. We got to see youth lads play. James McConnell, Tyler Morton, all did fantastic. Trainioni featured. It's a shame about what happened to Amarara Narlo, but that is a name. Amaram Narlo. Apologies. But yeah, it is what it is. Dead rubber. On to the next game. With 10 games away, potentially 9. I prefer Stitch's option of this more than mine. There are bigger fish to fry. This was a game we needed to get through. Injury-free, touch wood, from what I understand, bar Nunez, bar the sickness he's got. And yeah, no complaints from me. No major complaints from anyone as far as I'm aware. Referees still can't do their job properly, but we digress. And just before I shoot, by the way, I just want to give a little bit of a rant, because their 3rd goal, the 4 minutes had ended. It was in the 51st minute they scored. That's 6 minutes added on. So people need to learn to count. But that's going to do for me, Stitches and West. Thank you all very much for watching. If you could, then please click like and subscribe. It's going to be another stream tomorrow, 7:30. Yeah, tomorrow 7:30. There's another one with me on Friday at 7:30. So if you like me, then you get to see more of it. If you want to see Stitches and West, make sure you click subscribe. And yeah, on to the next game. Top of the Champions League. Bournemouth away next.